I don't think this is a win or go home game for either team. If the Falcons lose, they fall to 6-5. They're probably still in good shape to win the division. If the Broncos lose at 5-6, they're not out of the wild card race. But I do think that whatever team loses this game is going to have a tough time getting out of bed on Monday after maybe losing 3 in a row for the Broncos or 2 in a row for Atlanta and letting a major special teams blunder for both sides the previous week compound into another loss. So let's preview this matchup here and what I think is going to be a very good close game between these two pretty evenly matched teams. Let's look at the injury news, though. The injury report coming out on Thursday. A lot of full participants for the Broncos. Very encouraging to see Josh Reynolds, who is coming off injured reserve after getting finger surgery and then getting shot in October. Yes, you heard that correctly. Getting shot in the back of the head and the arm. It's almost a miracle that he is, able to play as quickly as he is. So very excited and very happy to see Reynolds hopefully return to the field. Meanwhile, the Falcons injury report is a lot longer than Denver's. For starters, they have Kirk Cousins on it, although he was a full participant on Thursday after being limited on Wednesday. I 100% expect Cousins to suit up and start on Sunday, but they are also going to get Lorenzo Carter back, who was their original starting outside linebacker, but the entire pass rush has been dreadful for Atlanta. Drake London's a full participant. Their original starting center, Drew Dalman's a full participant, kind of like Denver getting Luke Wattenberg back. They're kind of getting their Luke Wattenberg back as well. But they also have a lot of guys who were limited. Darnell Mooney, who has been a very good receiver this year, he had an Achilles injury pop up in the middle of the week. They're starting inside linebacker Troy Anderson. He missed 5 weeks with a knee injury. Then when he came back, he re-aggravated it in Week 10 back again against the Saints. They're starting guard Chris Lindstrom, who's kind of like their Quinn Miners, one of the best guards in football. He was limited with a knee, although I expect him to play. Meanwhile, they also have 6 guys who did not practice. So like I said, this is 3 times as long as the Broncos injury report. You have 2 starting corners, D. Alford and Mike Hughes, 1 backup corner, Antonio Hamilton. So the secondary is going to be razor thin. And you have 2 starting/rotational defensive linemen in James Smith-Williams and Taquan Graham. So Atlanta is definitely limping into this game. Their bye week is the week after this one, so they can't wait to get through this game and then enjoy a much-needed week off. How about the Broncos offense up against the Falcons defense? I don't think the numbers do Denver's offense justice. A lot of this factors in one of 2 things. The first 2 weeks of Bo Nix's starting career, which it's expected for rookie quarterbacks to have a little bit of growing pains. Then that horrible rainy monsoon game against the Jets where they only scored 10 points. I think that's more of a result of the conditions and the actual play by the offense itself. But the good news is Atlanta's defense is nothing to write home about, but it will mark Justin Simmons' return to the Mile High City because he has been on the Falcons since being cut over the previous offseason. Where oil meets water in this matchup is the Falcons offense against the Denver Broncos defense. Atlanta is 5th in yards per game. Meanwhile, the Broncos defense is 5th in total yards allowed. We saw something like this play out earlier this year. Go back to the Ravens matchup. It was a top 5 Ravens offense against a top 5 Broncos defense in scoring. We know how that went. So, once again, we're going to have another good offense against another great defense, and this time we'll see if Denver's defense can prevail after getting folded like a lawn chair against the Ravens. So who you got, Falcons or Broncos? I want to hear from everyone watching down below in the comment section who you think is going to win this game. Now, I do want to put some storylines on your radar, just things to watch for that could be deciding factors in this game. The first thing to watch for is pressuring Kirk Cousins. This has to be the name of the game for the Broncos pass rush. The pass rush this year for Denver is not star-studded with a bunch of household names like Von Miller or Bradley Chubb, but despite that, they are 2nd in sacks. I mean, the only guy in this defense that has a Pro Bowl to his name is Pat Surtain, is it not? Instead, they're not letting that kind of define them. No, they lead the AFC in sacks, being led by Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito, a 7th, a 2nd-round pick. Zach Allen has been one of the best interior pass rushers in football. Same goes for John Franklin Myers. Now, why this matchup is very important for this outcome is Kirk Cousins has very little mobility. So even if the Broncos don't sack him every single time, if they can collapse the pocket, that's going to make life miserable for the Falcons offense and honestly unoperable because there is no rolling out for Cousins. There's no stepping up in the pocket or bailing out of it and throwing on the run for old man Kirk. That's just not in the cards. So if the Broncos pass rush can win the line of scrimmage against the Falcons offensive line, that could be a nail in the coffin for what is the strength of this Falcons team, their offense. Because we know Atlanta's defense, who ranks dead last in sacks, is not going to be able to return the favor to this Broncos offense. So definitely something to watch for in this game. Now, before we get any further in today's show, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that sub button down below. We're knocking on the door of 28,000 subscribers, and then we're going to reach 30K. So if you are looking for a go-to Broncos YouTube channel, we're going to keep you up to speed on your favorite squad. So I invite everyone watching to click that subscribe button down below. Moving on to the second thing to watch for in this matchup, special teams turnaround. This goes both ways. Both special teams come into this game very motivated to get their act together. I mean, for Denver, it's very clear. After the blocked field goal, which I can't even believe I had to remind you guys about, on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of motivation to make sure something like this never happens again. And unfortunately, they are going to be a little bit shorthanded because special teams coach and assistant head coach Mike Westhoff stepped down from his post due to medical concerns. So hopefully, obviously, he will be okay, but the special teams unit will stay intact as well. But as bad as it is for Denver, it's not a whole lot better for Atlanta. Their kicker, Younghoe Koo, had 3 missed field goals in a 3-point loss in Week 10 against the Saints. That single-handedly sunk them. I mean, that is one of those very rare moments where, despite it being a team sport with 22 starters, you can point and go, that cost them the game. You missed 3 kicks, and you lost by 3 points. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize what happened. So I think special teams will factor in immensely in this game. Which of these two teams correct their mistakes? And then which of these two teams exploits the other team for having a clear weakness on special teams, which was on full display on Sunday a week ago. So this will be a huge matchup to watch for in this game. Which special teams either gives their team a boost or makes the other team pay for having a crack in their foundation. Third thing to keep an eye on is the Falcons' firepower. When we look at this from like a fantasy football matchup, which football is not played on the Sleeper app, it favors Atlanta by a lot. I mean, the Falcons just outman the Broncos in the running back department, in the receiver department, in the tight end department. But that's more or less been true for the entire season for Denver. I mean, when's the last time they went into a game going, yeah, we have better running backs, better receivers, better tight ends? Despite lacking a lot of just offensive playmakers, this is a resilient, gritty group that just chips in a way. I mean, as an opposing fan, you go into the stadium thinking, all right, I don't even know who's the running back for the Broncos. Who's Devon Vele? We're in. We're golden. And all of a sudden, you learn by third quarter, halftime, oh, little Jordan Humphrey is not one to sleep on. Like, he's a yards after catch monster. So this is going to be a big matchup, not because these guys are going to go up against each other directly, but the Falcons definitely have the advantage when it comes to air superiority. Like, they've got the big guns, but can the Broncos slow that down via Patrick Surtain, who has not allowed a receiver on his watch to get over 25 yards in coverage since week 1? Or is the Falcons' firepower just going to be too much to handle, right? Where, hey, we got to make sure we slow down Drake London and Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts. All right, well, now we're getting beat by Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier. We got to focus our attention there, but now we're getting beat through the air. Like, this is going to be a very big matchup for Denver's defense, and when they were tested by this against the Ravens, they failed, but they got a chance to redeem themselves this time. And now for the Broncos offensive playmakers, can they start to build off of what's been a couple of good weeks? Like, I know that the box scores might not reflect that, but I've got Bo Nix putting together 2 or more touchdown passes in the last 3 home games. I've got Cortland Sutton hauling in nearly 300 yards over the last 3 games and a touchdown too. Like, it may not be guys that win you your fantasy football league, but Sean Payton and I don't give a shit about your fantasy football team. Like, these are a gritty group of players that fight for every single yard and keep the ball moving down the field. Before we let you guys get on out of here, who will score the first touchdown? Let me know in the comment section below who you think it's going to be. I want to hear from everyone watching. Thinking for the Broncos, first touchdown from Denver comes from, how about the rookie running back, Abdomen? I'll go with that because it feels like he's going to be in line for the largest workload of all the running backs this week after taking over from Javonte Williams last week. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are not already, and I'll see everyone on Sunday.